So in the last session of this project, we basically talked about ActiveMQ, and now we have a Beanstalk. Elastic Beanstalk is basically a platform within AWS that is used for deploying and scaling web applications. In terms of this platform as a service, it takes your application code and it deploys it while provisioning the supporting architecture and compute resources that are required for your code to run. Elastic Beanstalk also fully manages the patching and the security updates for those provisioned resources. There are many PaaS solutions in the cloud computing space, including Python Anywhere, Azure App Services. However, AWS Elastic Beanstalk remains one of the leading PaaS choices among app developers. There's no charge to use Elastic Beanstalk to deploy your applications. You're only charged for the resources that are created to support your applications. AWS Elastic Beanstalk, it allows you to quickly deploy applications and services without having to worry about the configuring underlying resources, services, operating systems, or web servers. Elastic Beanstalk, it takes care of the hosting infrastructure, coding language interpreter, operating system, security, HTTP service, and application layer. All you need to worry about is writing your code. You can deploy code in a number of languages, which is then zipped up, and the zip file is used when instantiating a new Elastic Beanstalk instance. Supported language platforms include Ruby, Python, PHP, Node.js, Java, Packer Builder, Glassfish, we have Docker, we have Tomcat. The web servers they provisioned with will be familiar to most web developers and also include Apache, Tomcat, and IIS. You can still maintain control over the compute instance type used by Elastic Beanstalk while developing your applications to the cloud. And you can also keep control over the database type and the level of auto scaling required for your application. You can access server log files of your deployed web applications, update your application whenever required, and enable HTTPS on the load balancer when required. Using the Elastic Beanstalk delivers the opportunity to spend most or more time in developing and less time in managing your network, storage, operating system, and compute runtimes, as these all are handled by your Elastic Beanstalk. This leads to the quicker development since all you need is to package up your code, feed it to Elastic Beanstalk, and perform all the platform, and all the platform takes it from here. You don't need to spend time selecting compute instances, database and storage requirements, security and monitoring services, load balancing resources, and so on, which leads to much faster deployment. You take care of the code and the Elastic Beanstalk does the rest. After deployment, the operations of your Elastic Beanstalk hosted applications is also easier. You no longer have to take on the role of monitoring servers, monitoring storage, managing network loads, keeping operating systems up to date, since this is all taken care of by the platform. Elastic Beanstalk is possibly the simplest and the fastest way to deploy web applications on AWS. It allows you to focus on writing code instead of provisioning and configuring AWS resources. Elastic Beanstalk handles the auto scaling of resources needed to support your deployed application as the demand grows or shrinks. When the Elastic Beanstalk analyzes your applications and selects the resources that will be required, it also allows you to step and select alternative resources that may be better suited to anticipated use cases it may not know about. For example, you could select a higher specification EC2 instance type that better suit your needs. Typically, when you create an application, you will place all the related assets like code, you have resource configuration templates, you have your code versions and required files in a folder. An Elastic Beanstalk application is a similar concept, and it is an entity that holds all the related files, platform resources, and the configuration information to support the application when you deploy your application via Elastic Beanstalk. When you create and deploy a new application or new version, the application name will appear in the Elastic Beanstalk console. When you make changes to your application, you can deploy the updated application via Elastic Beanstalk. The application version relates to the specific labeled iteration of deployable code for your application. Within Elastic Beanstalk, the application version is a link to an S3 object that contains your deployable zip file. The named version will appear as a new application should you choose to deploy it into a different environment rather than deploying from within an existing application. When you're deploying an application, when you're launching your application with the Elastic Beanstalk, an environment is created to house the version of the application you are deploying. The environment hosts the required EC2 instances, storage, load, balancer, and auto-scaling groups, or anything else required by this version of the application. A single environment can also use and run one version of your application. You can deploy your new version over the top of an existing application environment. Say you have your productions. However, you also have the flexibility to install to alternative environment like developments, staging, or testing environments. Each environment will have a unique URL to access the running application. There are basically two tiers instantiated when you deploy an application via your Elastic Beanstalk. The web server environment tier is the front-facing segment that responds to HTTP requests from the users accessing the application URL. The worker environment tier is a background service that processes requests delegated by the web server tier and can also run workloads processing background tasks. You can write code, you can deploy that code to the worker environment and instead of the main web server application. Elastic Beanstalk monitors your web server application and the worker environment and performs health checks on how the application is running.